Hello and welcome to Body in the City. My name is Jasmine and today I have a lovely guest with me, Genevieve. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm all good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. We got there in the end, but we are good. So today the lovely Genevieve is going to discuss with us physiotherapy. What is physiotherapy? The ins and outs of it. She's also a vocal physio, which is a really, really important and niche job in itself.
That is. Yeah.
And I'm very excited to just dive into that world with you, understand a bit more about it. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
So you know, just from watching the episodes, that I like to put together a little introduction about you.
Yes.
To help our guests to read your LinkedIn bio, basically. So what I put together is introducing you as Genevieve, a musculoskeletal and vocal performance physiotherapist.
The one.
Who has worked in some of the biggest productions in West End, including Harry Potter and Wicked, which is epic, mind you. You specialise in helping performers maintain their physical and vocal health with a passion for empowering your patients to better understand their bodies. Mm-hmm. You're currently working on an article on vocal physiotherapy.
Yeah.
That's correct. And today we're going to be diving into your journey into this field, especially as a young Black woman in healthcare and how physiotherapy can benefit everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome, Genevieve.
Thank you so much.
Amazing. Is there anything I left off of that?
No, I mean, that's me to a T.
Love that. We can just end it there. We can just cut. No, of course not. I love this. I love physio in general. I often had to have it because my body's always quite sore.
The struggles.
And I always feel that when people think about physio, they think of it as like an end thing to do, like when it's really, really bad.
It's often like the crisis point where people are like, oh, like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I'm at the end of my wits. And then I'll go. But we're really, me and colleagues that I work around are really trying to reframe that and have come quite far with it and just encouraging people to seek us at that point, yes. Right. But also when you feel like things are changing or where you feel like you might be at risk but you're actually okay, come to us to just get to know your body more and get to know what you can do to essentially reduce the risk of injury.
Would you say that your specialty is come to us as a form of maintenance?
Injury recovery, trying to optimize yourself. I think I like people to think of physio in the same way as they might take their car for an MOT. Just check, it can be a routine thing that when you're good, actually, I don't know, if you're good generally, come in once a year and just see where you're at because our bodies change and there's loads that we can give people in terms of skills and tips to get towards aims of things that they might want to be doing.
I hear that. And then for people that don't quite know or understand what physiotherapy is and how it would differ from the other modalities that we know about, your PNFs and massage and stretching, what is physiotherapy in a nutshell?
In a nutshell. I'd say physio, we're movement specialists, as are other people in the field. But we all go through about 3 years of training, if not more, where we learn about different medical pathologies. So physio isn't just my side of physio where I do musculoskeletal, where you might have pulled a muscle and come into clinic. We also have knowledge of the respiratory system and how we might be able to facilitate breathing. Amazing. There are specialist physios that work in the neurology field and deal with nerve conditions. It's quite vast. So we've got that back medical knowledge. But my sector is we look at movement and everything that contributes to that and how we can optimize it.
That's really cool. And then day to day, what would a client or anyone who visits you, how can they expect their session to go?
I'm going to read you because I said movement, but there are other things that come into that. But essentially, if someone came in for treatment, it could look a few different ways. So sometimes people come in because they want screening, which is just like a top to toe check of where they're up to, what's weak, what they're good at, and how we can get their weaknesses to be strengths. More often, people come in because they've injured something and they don't have a clue how to manage it. They're help me get back to X, Y, and Z. And it's typically a booking, a chat about what the issue is. But the approach that I pride myself on taking is I want to know about the injury, but I want to know about the person because I think that's really important. We can give you all the specialist tips. RE, let's say it was a knee injury. We can tell you how to rehab that. But if we've not looked at lifestyle and the things that have maybe come to cause it and why that person's having difficulty getting better, crazy schedules, lack of sleep, poor diet, etc., you're only going to get them so far. And actually we lose a potential space to give that person more power to manage themselves. So yeah, bit of time to take the information in about the whole person.
No, it's interesting as well, because I think in this particular field, it's almost like you don't necessarily want to see this person long term. You know, the aim isn't to like see them like, every week. You kind of want to get them to get them to a place of like equilibrium, help them so they don't create these imbalances again, and then send them on their way. I think there can be like many professions, I won't name them, but it's just like where they kind of rely on them coming back. They kind of rely on you coming back time and time and time again. With physio, would you say you want the client to come back often, or you're happy to see them for X amount of time and get them to a place and then never see them again?
It's tricky because we can put healthcare, well-being and like physio, chiro, osteo into these titles, but I think it actually doesn't matter to a degree what the title is. It's about the person and the practitioner and how much they've done in the way of extra training for that field and what their morals are. Because I know and have come across previous physios that will have people rely on them quite happily. But equally, I know great physios that are very self-management promoting and do a bit like to help people, but also encourage people to come get it better, optimize, and then go on your way to whoever your normal team is. So I think it's largely about the person. And I particularly in my field, I'm not necessarily biased to some of those titles. I want to know what the person's about and what their approach to treatment is.
Yeah, I think that's what makes you a good healthcare, a good worker.
Right.
Caring about the person as an individual, not giving this blanket one size fits all, because it just doesn't work that way.
No, we're all so different.
So different. So what led you to kind of take this skill and go into the performing arts industry?
Happy accident, to be brutally honest. A lot of things that happen to me are happy accident. Though, like, don't get me wrong, I do really work hard, and when I set myself aims, I like really try and go into them. But coming into physio was a choice made on what am I interested in. I love sports, I loved activity, and I also found like the sciences quite interesting. It was like rookie thing of like when you're just finishing secondary school, do work placement. And I went and saw a physio and I was like, how did they work that out? I must try that. So did uni, but when I went into uni, my thoughts were that I'm going to go into sports. That was kind of the obvious pathway for me, obvious. And so when I was in uni, I was doing bits and bobs around like marathons and stuff like that and events, sport-based work. And then I dance by background. I've danced since I was younger, but it was more of an outlet for me. I never wanted to pursue it necessarily as a career, but I just always wanted to have it. And I would often do like little concept videos or go to a studio and work on pieces and things like that. And when I was working at my first job in the NHS, I was still doing that, and I'd got into a department that was what we call MSK, muscle, bone, nerve linked injuries. And one of the girls there, who's great, she clocked one of my videos and she was like, do you know that like dance physio is a whole thing? And I was like, what? Completely missed it. I was like, what? She was like, yeah, one of my mates works in London doing this at a clinic, and she was like, shall I put you in touch? And then the rest was history.
Love it.
Yeah, and then just kind of came down to London, was doing work in a clinic and doing some West End stuff, and then everything from that has been domino effect, really. Domino effect and going, oh gosh, I can do this, or this could be better, or has anyone thought about this sector? And yeah, here I am.
Well, congrats. And how long have you been in the industry now?
Going towards 10 years. We are 9 years into the physio world, 8 years in. I got into this sector very quickly. I don't know how. I had
meant to be. That's why. You're clearly very good at it. I've seen some of your work. I've looked through your website. I've looked at the feedback, the responses, and it's so impressive.
Thank you.
It's so impressive. What kind of big projects are you working on now, aside from your West End stuff?
So I'm actually not as much in West End at the moment. I have people on West End shows that still come and see me. I've kind of gone through, every year is different for me, which is, it keeps it interesting. So I do some clinic-based work where I see people pre-post-op, that could be also like voice or just basically anything in the clinic.
Yeah.
But I'm working with a company called Prehab. Love them so much. On Strictly Come Dancing at the moment. I see singers ad hoc when they're touring. So sometimes I'll do a pre-show physio for voice or for body or for whatever they need to tie together. I'm also working at Ops Ed, which is a performance school in West London. Got a few things on the go.
Yeah, you're
and
a
we're
busy
gonna
woman.
bring it all together next year. But there's been a lot of different projects happening of recent.
That's nice. And then how would you say, because obviously I feel like physio is like, I wouldn't say it's like an orthodox form of medicine because it's kind of not, it's movement therapy and it's holistic in itself. How do you feel like it ties to wellness, well-being, self-care, just for our audience? And obviously what Body City aims to bring about is this like self-awareness and how we can treat our bodies better. How would you say physiotherapy can be linked to those things?
I think something that I've been dabbling over recently, that I have definitely found difficult navigating the physio, but the health world, there is definitely a place in where physio is very formal and rigid and looks a certain way. And I think sometimes that can affect accessibility, but also people's willingness to go to physio for what it represents. I think it has a really beautiful role in terms of teaching you what your body's already telling you and almost like translating a language of, I've got a pain, I don't have a clue what this is trying to tell me, and allowing someone to be like, oh, now I can, that means this. And it fits quite nicely in terms of physios do have a role in health promotion. We can signpost to other professions. We can be that middle ground, and certainly working with the shows. We're quite often a negotiator where someone's come to us and they're really struggling, but manager or whoever else higher up in the team needs them on show, and we can be that, we're going to translate what they're struggling with injury wise and how that looks to you on show, and this is the middle ground, this is what they can do, can't do. There's a really nice amount of scope there to just support people in their well-being, but also give some nice overview health tips where that we can go, oh, actually, I think you need more of a nutritionist, or we think you need a doctor's input on that. And I hope I answered that. I feel like
no, you did. I think it's all, no, it absolutely did. It ties into, I think, what we mention a lot here. It's like having this balance, and it's like not just focusing on one aspect of your life, not just focusing on the physical, but it's also like the mental, like the sleep, the nutrition, the environmental, all these different things. And I think that's why physio fits in so nicely, because it's like it's getting you to think about movement as a whole. You know, I'm big on movement. You know, I come from the yoga background.
Yes,
I come from stretch therapy and fascia stretch therapy, so it's like it feels necessary to promote it the same way that you do as a physiotherapist. You just got way more qualifications than I do. I just like bend and stretch people for fun, and you're out here going, actually no.
But there's back knowledge, isn't there? And I think this is the key thing. You will have a title, but you will also have life experience. You will also have everyone you've ever met. You will also have the courses that you've been on. And I think that's sometimes a really hard thing for someone externally to understand what the difference is between, let's say, going to you and going to someone who maybe has the same title but did like 2 days worth of work. And do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that is, I guess, the beauty of like promotion and being able to put stuff on the internet and stuff now, but it's still very difficult.
It is.
Expectation wise, allowing a profession or professions to have a title but going, who's better? What do I get from that versus that?
I never ever felt that way. Like when I was working, I still do work as a stretch therapist now, I never really felt like, okay, like one is necessarily better than the other. It's just two different forms of body work and body therapy. I just feel that with the work that we do can be sometimes quite taxing. I'm guessing as for you as well. Like, or for me, I can speak for myself only, that I find stretch therapy beautiful, love it, bread and butter, do it all the time. How do you, as a physiotherapist, maintain your balance? Are you being seen by a physio? Are you getting stretched daily? Like, what are you doing to take care of your body so you can promote what you're basically practicing?
Oh, it's tricky because everyone always, well, not always, quite a lot of people will go, oh, you're a doctor, you should be doing this. You're a physio, you should be doing this. We're human. We are human. We get it wrong, we get it right sometimes. But I think definitely getting the balance is an ongoing battle. I know that I am at my best if I am dancing. I am going to the gym or going boxing classes as of recent. I am getting some form of like, my body loves movement. As soon as I've had like 2 weeks off, like going to classes or movement, my brain goes. And my body's like, it's like screaming at me.
Throbbing. What's going on?
So I have to have movement in my regime. Also for a mental release, dance is like, I'll go to the studio and come out a new woman. It's great. And then there have been times where I've needed like therapy support where it's just to talk and get the stuff out your system. Like I vouch, if you've never had therapy before, please 100%. Try it. But like, find the person that fits you, because it's good to have that outlet space. And I just think also as a physio, we hear so much of the difficulty in people's lives that there was a good chunk of time, like quite early on in my career, where I just didn't realise how much I was consuming and carrying out of physio world and being like, why am I really down today? Where I feel a bit like there's a lot heavy there. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that can be useful here and there. What else do I do? I like creative-y things. So when I get the opportunity to, like, I think it must have been a year or 2 years ago, I started like spoken word and like writing poetry and stuff, and that was really, really cool. Give me
all the inspiration. I'm looking at you like, I need to do these things.
It's really like, it's so soul difficult. Food.
It is soul
and
food.
And it's finding and scheduling the time and like knowing what peace feels like and what it feels like to choose peace and being like, right, I'm really far away from it. I've not done enough. I need to put it in. Because that's what keeps us, I think.
It keeps us. And I mean, I'm that person you're describing right now. Like this point in time, like I'm the person that can promote all the stuff, promote all the wellness activities, do the stretching and not be given enough of that to myself. And I can really noticeably tell the difference in my body, mentally, how I feel now, not doing those things compared to when I was doing those things. So I can only imagine the people that are listening to this and going, oh, do you know what? She's so right. Like I just need to find that balance, look after myself and do these little small acts of kindness for yourself.
That's the key. Small.
In order to, like small but regular.
Me and my mate used to speak about like just getting the basics. Like when life is difficult and you're like, I should be doing this and this. I should be doing all of that because I know it's good for me. But sometimes all you can do is get out of bed and have a shower and you're like, basics. Basics. Go for a walk. Basic. Like these little things, or spending a minute doing breathing exercises. They give you more than what you realise when you are tired and drained and you've been juggling. And the basics usually stay in there and then we build when we can. And, I
think the basics are, for some, again, talking about myself, are underrated. The basics are so underrated because it's like you said, it is small. It's like just getting out of bed, just like washing your hair or going for a stroll. That's things. Like a tick off your tick box. And then eventually you can build on that. That's such good advice.
I'm reading a really good book. I can't remember who it's by, but it's like, it's a doctor's book and it's like a nice like page a day read. So I pick it out like when I'm on the tube or things like that. And it's just like, it's research back for my like geeky brain. But it's like things like water, drink water. We already know to drink water, but it's quite a nice one. I forget sometimes. But it's a nice one in terms of like, they've done the research, but he's put it in like very conversational language in terms of like, we all know we're meant to drink water and do a certain amount, but it's like, he puts it in like cups of water and what's normal and what to look for and things like that. But it's nice to then go, that is a really little thing. And yes, I might not hit the top amount, but if I know that I've done the time that I was doing it, yes, I've fallen off the wagon, but I felt the difference from just that small thing of going, I'm going to consciously for the morning get up and have a pint of water and do these little things in the morning. It made such a difference.
It's a really good takeaway. Just a reminder. I think a lot of the things that people suggest, like we're suggesting today, is so trivial. It's so simple. It's like
small.
Small. But you'll be surprised by people that just aren't doing the bare minimum. You know. So no, it's all very interesting stuff. And I just feel like everyone should invest in some form of movement therapy, whether it's seeking out your nearest physiotherapist, Genevieve, whether it's going to a class, whether it's taking a walk. I mean, there's so much resources available online. Just going to YouTube, doing a stretch.
That's the beauty of it. Like, no movement is bad movement. Like people will have the things that maybe... You'll know if there's an activity that doesn't sit well with you. And then there is the whole question of why, etc. But there's usually something that people can find that feels good for them.
Yeah.
It's just finding the
right thing. What advice would you have for women? Again, this episode is very like personal. I'm just asking you questions.
No, let's go.
What advice would you have for women, pre and post pregnant women, whose bodies aren't the same post pregnancy, especially post pregnancy? Because I know that during pregnancy, we release more of this relaxing hormone, right? So our ligaments tend to be a little bit more looser, so a bit more flexible. We're preparing to deliver, right? And then after that baby comes, like after a few months, the body tends to seize up a little bit. The lack of movement means there's this restriction. The fascia gets quite thick. Would you recommend pregnant or recently like new mums to come for physiotherapy?
100%.
Yeah.
The thing is, I think with physio and with healthcare in general, it's good to check in when things change, because you're essentially dealing with a new body, or have been dealing with a new body over that 9 months. There are women's health specialist physios. I know a bit, but I'm not a women's health specialist, that can specifically look at pelvic floor strength, any things to do with leaking and things like that. And also just give you a baseline of where you're at, particularly if you've had a C-section or anything like that you can go to for assessment. I'd recommend that anyway, because then at least you know off the bat where things are, and you're less likely to panic if you struggle with any problems. But physio in general, I think, can be useful if you are a mover. If you normally do a certain amount of activity, you might find it quite difficult to get back. Some people don't. But it can just be a stepping stone of like, this is your check-in. This is you now. Like,
how do you want to feel?
This is you now. Where do you want to be? How do you get there? And what is the safest, most efficient way of doing that? And also, like, on a scheduling thing, like, where are you actually going to have time to do the things? Or some people forget when they've got a little one, they are carrying loads and they've never really had to carry anything before. And the amount of people that will come in like, my shoulder hurts.
That's me.
Why does it hurt? It's like, well, you kind of got something here. Or the neck pain that comes after pregnancy, because we don't normally live like we do for phones, but we don't
not
normally.
To the side.
So many people come in with like crooked necks, and I'm like, oh. But there are little things that you can do that are just, let's just give you some arm exercises, or let's just give you things to be mindful of, RE neck and posture. Little nuggets that are very easily shared over like one appointment.
No,
to be
I
honest.
wish that someone pointed me to a physiotherapist like during pregnancy and afterwards. Luckily, because I'm a movement therapist, I knew that my body was in that disalignment. I knew that something wasn't quite right, so I took myself to a physiotherapist. Just because I needed clinical compared to what I'm used to. I mean, I'm very like kumbaya in it, so it's like to go somewhere that's like bright white lights.
That is a thing for me.
And I was just like, okay, it wasn't really my scene, but I really appreciated what he had to share. And very similar to what you just said, like, you know, the posture change. Obviously, I breastfed, so like, you know, your chest changes, the weight, the movement, the muscles are strained. The leaning on one side, the hip, and the neck. The hip, the neck, and it's just like, wow, like you all discombobulated.
Like you have time to think about that when you're looking after a whole other being as well.
I just woke up one day and I was like, okay, I don't feel like I'm standing straight, walking straight. I don't feel straight. I feel like misaligned. So yeah, I would highly recommend to women who've just had a baby, especially, or pre, post, wherever it may be, to seek some physio advice, just because the body's not the same. Like for a long time, I couldn't really practice yoga, which is like my love. It's like my first love. I really, really love it.
And then like for soul as well.
Yeah, my soul was like aching for it, but you know what it is? My body just didn't fit it at that time. Especially, no one tells you that your like center of gravity is just all over the place. My balance. Yeah,
because you've had this bump on, like, do you know what I mean?
So it took a while for me to like feel the love again and to feel in love with this new body again. And I do really believe that it's because I just wasn't used to the body that I had now. And had I seen a physiotherapist, but still, I do, there's a lack of awareness, especially for mums who give birth, on what to do post-care.
Yeah.
There's no protocol.
It's like, you got the baby now. It's fine, you go.
Listen, you get that baby and they say bye.
Like, bye. See you later. I think the other thing is, use it as an excuse to just get like an hour to yourself if you need to.
That too.
Like
Listen.
you've got a whole hour, half an hour, whatever it is, where you've gone, hold on a second, let me check in with me.
Yeah.
And I say this all the time, like, allow that to be a space that is about you. It's not about the practitioner that you're seeing. That is a space for you to go, and this and this and this, and I want to do like you, as opposed to. And the really nice thing about the women's health specialist that I know, quite happy to have baby in the room. Like you can, that is doable.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wish I knew these things before.
It's tricky because like, I don't know. That's the kind of information that you maybe wouldn't hear unless you knew someone that had gone. Because it's not, you can't look up a personality, or you can't look up the clinic room on the internet. And there's a certain amount of privacy that we just have to have. Like it's the law with people coming in. That's, unless someone's literally come to do marketing and stuff like that, that's not something you can go, can I bring bait? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you wouldn't know unless actually someone's told you.
Yeah.
No, it's really interesting. And I do hope this inspires the NHS, if it ever does get to them, to add that somewhere. I know they've got resources online, but there needs to be better communication, better takeaway notes for women. Like, I literally left the hospital and it was like, cool, you're good, off you go, you know, and there was no check-in after that. There was nothing for women. You kind of just got to like do your own research and have your own due diligence. But I just feel like the more people that know, do you know what, this is available to you if you can find the time to.
Yeah.
Go and get an MOT.
It's really tricky because we love the NHS. But I know of people that I know that work in the NHS, and having worked in the NHS myself, the people always want to do more.
Yeah.
The structure doesn't always allow.
Yeah.
And I think particularly where we're getting to where waiting lists are really, like, waiting lists have been long for time, but there is definitely a lapse in ability to sometimes, it's that signposting and going, by the way, the ability to go, we can't, but you can.
Right.
Is sometimes missed. And it's been interesting. I've had over the past year actually, some people, and I don't know if they're meant to do this, but hopefully they won't get in trouble. Some people in the NHS that are doing that are going, we can only see you X, Y, and Z, but there's someone who's based here. Yeah. And I've had like non-specific but NHS referrals where they've gone, oh, we heard you work with performance and stuff like that, and that's really cool. But it's tricky.
It is tricky, isn't it?
It's tricky.
This is why people like you and I were important.
We have a mission.
We've got a mission. A mission to make people feel better in themselves. No, let's take it back to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'll just go down the rabbit hole of pregnancy and how it's so hard. But let's go back to you and speak about you working in this industry of physiotherapy. I'm assuming, obviously, you come straight as an undergraduate, straight out of uni to do it.
Yeah, I kind of... I went and studied up in Manchester, had a great old time. And we, as part of the course, you have placements, so you have to do a certain amount of hours. And that, at the time, was under the NHS, so different hospitals, etc. Yeah. And fortunately, one of the hospitals that I worked in, North Manchester, love them, offered me a job on my birthday on the year that I finished. Yeah. So I went and worked with them and was in, like, if you had a knee injury where you get referred to the MSK department, I was with them for like, it was meant to be 6 months, and I was like, can I stay? Because I really like it. It was 8 months. And then I went to orthopaedic ward, so like with fractures and things like that, was working on the ward, but I was like, I like it, but I liked what I was doing before. Yeah. And then that job came up, so I came to London, working in the clinic, doing the West End bits, and then went on tour. Just did a load of random things, but essentially that was a temporary contract. So what then came up was a tour with a show called Warhorse, which was awesome because we got to, I didn't know where I wanted to live around that time. We got to spend a month in different cities around the UK doing the show. I was looking after the team, learning and looking after the team, my stress, because it was my first tour and I was like, this is all new. Yeah. And did that, and then through a series of events came back to London, and then 3 or 4 years ago went self-employed, so I've been doing it for myself for a bit of time on various projects, so it's been a whirlwind. When I sit and think about all the things that I've managed to do in that time, I'm a bit like, did I? But there's so many different experiences in that, and the beauty of, I did at one point go back to work in the NHS. The beauty of understanding that system, understanding what people can access there and what keywords you have to say to get doctors and GPs to do the thing, because that is a whole thing. So a really nice post, which, I mean, or maybe tag, that was really useful for like things to say to the GP or things to say when you know that you need, because sometimes that's dismissed. Just like taking a moment before you go to the GP appointment to go, what do I want out of this? Am I going for medication? Do I want a referral? Do I want advice about specific things? Sometimes, because the appointment's so tight, if you're not clear in what you want out of it, you won't necessarily get anything out of it, or they'll just be like, come back. And that's not everyone, but that's quite a common thing. And words or terms to maybe use to assert that you're clear on what you want. Because I think for some people, experiencing the GP is rushed, or they're not listened to, not heard, or they're dismissed, particularly women, for pain linked things, which is bizarre. They go, oh, it's fine, that's normal, see you later. And then like 6 months later, you're diagnosed with endometriosis. 6 months if you're lucky. Usually it's years down the line, but just little tips and tricks for things to think about.
How to really advocate for yourself and to push.
Because I wouldn't know half of this stuff if I hadn't worked on the other side and worked private. And working private has given me the insight to go, we know how to get that better quicker. Or we know who you need to see and who needs to work together to get the best out of this. That has been the beauty working private.
No, it's interesting. And some key takeaways there, guys. Really understand and know what it is you want to go to the GP for.
It's tricky. But if you can take 5 minutes with yourself to just go, why am I ringing? What is it? What do you need from them? And do you need something from the GP, or is it someone else? And if it is someone else, have the conversations around who that might be. Ask friends, etc. Or if you literally don't have a clue, ask the GP. But be really specific in the outcome that you want. So that you get the outcome that you want.
There's been times I've gone to the GP and before I've even taken a seat, the prescription pad has already been taken out. It's like, okay, what can I do for you? I'm like, I am not in Whole Foods. I don't need shopping. I need you to like give me some solid advice and to help me to decode this. So no, that's really, really like important information to give. And then just going back to obviously your long now career in physiotherapy, I'm assuming, not necessarily, but there may or may not have been some challenges along the way.
Oh, yeah.
What might have those been?
Well, stop. No. I'm really lucky to have met some really incredible physios, specialists along the way. I think... I have to think about this. I think, for me personally, what I found difficult, and I kind of mentioned it a bit at the start, but like, the notion that a physio looks a certain way. The notion that if you look young, people are going to criticise you before you get going.
Absolutely.
Like, you don't have enough knowledge. And like, you don't know where I've been. The notion that, and the pressure of feeling like that when you work in healthcare, you have to be doing all the healthcare things. And maybe not quite having had that figured out. Definitely the notion that you can't do anything wrong, but you have to do things wrong to learn. Like, there's no other way around it. Like, we're going to make mistakes. We don't know everything. And I never claim to know everything. Because if I did, I think I'd be doing myself and my patients a disservice. But there are people that claim to know everything. And I think that coming into the industry can feel a bit daunting, because you always feel like, I don't know enough, or like, I need to do that course or this. And it's actually nice to, yes, the years of experience help, but it's nice to sit in that, this is what I do know. And if I don't know, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I don't have a clue.
Be super transparent about what
here's someone that does know. Knowing boundaries of scope of what I can do and what I... Actually, that's not my bag. That's not my bag.
I am not a magician.
But then also definitely knowing the power of just meeting and networking. And I say networking, I kind of want to bin that word, but like spending time meeting people and understanding what they do, and having what I absolutely love now is I've got You want a physio in North London? Got it. Want a physio in Manchester? Got it. Got a physio in, like, this network that is not immediately here, but I know people in different areas of the city and even abroad now that I'm like, I trust them with my soul. I've seen them or met them in some capacity, or my patients have. And if you're travelling, sorted for the most part, which is great.
That's epic. And then just going back as well, when you said that, you know, being in this circle or this healthcare industry, it can be daunting because off the bat, not everyone might look into a room and trust you. I kind of know what that feels like a little bit. Obviously, I don't work in physiotherapy necessarily, but when I was teaching yoga, when I do stretch therapy, especially in yoga, I'd say it's a prime example in the very early times when I was teaching, and I would be sat at the front of the class. You know, I'm waiting, I'm like taking names, like I'm clearly the teacher.
Yeah.
And you get like new guests will come in and they're still looking around the room waiting for the teacher to come in, and they're kind of like looking through you almost.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
And they're kind of miffed by the idea that you could be that person that they're now going to learn from, until you stand up and introduce yourself and you begin, and they're like, oh, and they're a little bit taken aback.
And then there's this like period of time where you can feel it and they can feel it.
It's like we've both, I can sense you're uncomfortable and I can sense you're a little bit like, you know, put out by me being here.
And then you have to do more to prove yourself and why. But it's but I wouldn't be here if I wasn't that's definitely a thing. Definitely a thing.
I'm glad I'm not the only person. I felt that for so long, like this sense of, do I now have to jump through extra hoops to prove that I should be here?
Yeah.
And then eventually as I got older, I thought, no. You come to me. I'm not going to do all that. Okay.
Like you've entered my space, like our shared space, but also you've come to me.
Yeah. Right.
And it's,
But I think that's like quite a common theme with women, Black women in this industry, especially having to just do a little bit more to prove that we too belong in this space.
A little bit or a lot?
A little bit more, let's be honest. To prove that we belong in this space. And a lot of times we're dominating in that space. Like we're great at what we do for a reason, and we love it because we're so passionate about it.
I think definitely when I came to London, I quietly felt, I never really voiced it until I did something, which I'll talk about in a minute, but I felt that, oh my gosh, you're a Black physio. The amount of times that was said in my room and I'd be like, I have not acknowledged this. And let's carry on with the treatment
it's
session.
so brazen
like,
as well. It's just like, what?
Yeah, but like from the Black community, I think also that is a thing. Like we learn from people and we take most from the people that reflect ourselves. So I was getting people into clinic that were like losing their absolute minds that I was even in there. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I never, I think up until that point, I hadn't really sat with the fact that that was a thing. And certainly now, having had chance to meet people, I'm like, how many Black practitioners do I actually know? Let me like really delve into that, because that is a whole thing. And I really do value when people of the community, particularly young kids, come in and you can see the little reactions. They're like, oh, and you're like, oh, this is actually really important. Like in lockdown, the dreaded lockdown, when everyone was trying to do bits and bobs to, I guess, rally and show that they care, a thing that I'd sat with that I often found quite difficult. I had a patient in who was on a show with an injury, and we get like this kinesio tape. So it's like supportive taping for...
A lot of basketball players use it, right?
Yeah, you'll probably see it there. But a lot of it it's black or it's nude, which nude is...
Cream.
Like cream, which isn't nude. So I did a thing. I was like, oh, I don't know, like, I've kind of wanted to say something about this for a while, but I had an occasion where that person was like, she couldn't have tape on her skin and show because it didn't fit her skin tone, and she just dislocated a shoulder.
Goodness.
She was good with the exercise and stuff like that and was relatively stable, but I was like, this is gonna like help if I can strap it firmly. K-tape, firm tape. She declined it because a manager was making a deal of it. She then went and re-dislocated, and it was a nightmare. I just was like, that was such a little thing. And so me and amongst other colleagues as well. I kind of rallied them together. We emailed out to a load of different companies and was like, sort it out. Change the title also, but also how hard is it to make another shade? And Sport Tape UK, another shout out, bothered to listen, which is great. And now they have brown tape shade, but they're also doing some bits more, which we're revamping at the moment. So stay tuned for them in the new year. But it's just those little things like...
no one thought about.
It's just little, isn't it?
It's so small. I mean, that's been a thing for a long time. I think only within the last, I would say 10 years, I read an article and it's like there's more shades of tights now than there was at one point.
Ballet shoes were a whole thing.
Ballet shoes, tights, and anything that came in the word nude, but it isn't nude because nude for who?
No, exactly.
So no, that's really important and powerful. That just making you put it out there to make that change.
Yeah, and I think our theme has been like all the little things count.
Yeah,
the little things count.
It adds up as we keep learning in this episode.
Well, that's it. And when that first lot came into clinic, I was buzzing because it's just the little reactions in people's faces. It's like the first time that I saw brown plasters, I was like, oh my gosh, Mum, have you seen this? Like, it has a big impact for us.
Well,
it's the stuff that we didn't see when we were younger. Yeah. So, we're pro the change and...
No, I love that. We've got to be a part of the change. We have to also help with the change and making that change for us.
That's it.
Going to, very quickly, on vocal physiotherapy, because I haven't really touched on that. I've heard about vocal coaches, but it's not the same thing. Tell me, what's a vocal physiotherapist?
So, in the same ways we spoke about physios being like aware of movement, but also having the different specialisms in respiratory, etc. When we look at the voice, on a typical physio course, no one looks at it. It's weird. We learn the body. Yeah. We learn the neck, skip anything about the larynx. Kind of skip... Well, we learn that the jaw's there, but we don't really do anatomy there, and then we go brain, and then cool. Yeah. So the voice is like this no man's land. But the clinic that I worked with in Central when I first came to London, the manager was like specialism in vocal physio. Or it was kind of called laryngeal manual therapy at the time, which is just manual therapy around the larynx. Yeah. But he worked very closely with vocal coaches and speech and language therapists and ENTs, which is the ear, nose and throat doctor, and did a lot of research around how there's loads of muscles here and we've got essentially a floating joint, and how this can affect this and therefore affect our voice. So we used to learn like the basics of how to do treatment to facilitate better voice. Yeah. And since then, all of us have kind of gone our different ways, but we've built on that and gone, wait, like, we're physios. We know other stuff. So the voice works on breath. So if someone's not breathing efficiently, what does that do? And what do we know in terms of baseline breathing techniques and release around here and maximising movement around there that can then affect the baselines of what you've got to voice and then send you to vocal coach, speech and language therapist to couple that up, and what does that do? Right. And it's awesome because for some people it's like life-changing. Yeah. I had a teacher in who had lost a voice due to multiple reasons. Don't get me wrong, it's like physio doesn't work alone in this. But she came in, she was speaking like this, and this was a voice, and she couldn't teach because the kids were taking the mick out of her. She had to quit a job. Like, she'd really lost herself. Yeah. And release work gave her a bit more volume, but then she'd lose it again. And then in that same way that we're talking about physio being good for signposting, it was like, well, there's definitely an emotional factor here. Sometimes people voice what, when you cry and it feels like you're hearing it, like it changes your voice straight away. Yeah. There is a mechanical element to that, but emotion has an influence on voice. So it's then like, does she need to see a psychologist, etc.? And we put a team around it, and she's back teaching. Wow. And that is awesome because the first day that she walked in and I heard her proper voice, I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is what you sound like. Yeah. Wow. And then for singers, it's like, sometimes it's the difference between them hitting a note or doing a set. Like, some people will ring me and cry. So it's like, I've got a show tonight and I just don't feel like I can do it. And we'll do techniques and then they'll do their vocal warm up and they'll go, great, I'm good to go. Nice. So yeah, it's epic. For anyone that uses their voice, which is everyone, there is potentially a role in vocal physio for where the voice is functionally affected. But failing that, we're quite good at signposting.
Nice. Good advice, that. I know it all comes from the diaphragm and
it's space. It's all creating space. Also looking at the chain, because we all know what it's like to have an ankle injury and then compensate with our knee and the other leg. It's that, like, if I had a bad shoulder injury or if I was like this, my voice would change.
Yeah, because there's less air movement.
The domino effect. Yeah, exactly. She knows it. She knows it.
I know, guys. I know. Amazing. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation. I can talk to you about this for ages because I love body work, I love movement therapy, and I love what you stand for. Is there any like takeaway notes? What are you working on now? Where can people find you?
I'm always around and about. Yeah. So I'm London based, but I do work with people on video. Like sometimes I get like random video calls from like America and stuff. So like you're in a different time zone, that works. I am expanding my team, which is really cool. I am bringing on another physio and a massage therapist, and actually they are going into a place called Built in South London, which is a women's only wellness space, which is great. So check that out. But essentially, find me on my page at Tawiah Physio, which will tag somewhere.
We shall, don't worry.
Or jump on my website, which is currently being updated, but maybe by this point it'll be done.
It'll be done.
And you'll see what I'm doing there, essentially. But please stay tuned because I've got loads of ideas and I'm really, really just keen on making physio and wellness link things more accessible. So
absolutely,
you get stuck, find me.
Thank you so much. It was so good to hear from you. So good to learn. I love it. Honestly, so informative. And of course, find all the information below. It'll be hashtags, be in the description. I'm going to make sure it's on the screen somewhere. So you guys can find Genevieve anywhere that you might need her. I like to wrap up these sessions with a little closing ritual, which we do by picking a Body Necessity card, answering it for our lovely audience, and give them a little bit of a takeaway advice. Okay? So go ahead. Yep, grab anyone. Don't cheat though. It's got to be random.
Just take all of them. Again, this one. We went straight in the middle.
What does it say?
Oh, God.
I'm excited.
What is a lesson you learned from a past relationship?
Tell us.
What is a lesson that I've learned from a past relationship? There's no harm in being open. I think I definitely, by nature, used to keeping a lot to myself and dealing a lot with myself. And yeah, openness, though it can be scary, can literally open doors. Can literally open your eyes. Yeah. Which sounds really obvious.
Just you just be yourself, like from the jump.
Yeah, just
I like this one.
Yeah.
Thank you. She's like,
I'm like, I'm going to take that away myself.
Yeah, she's going to go home now and be thinking about it in the car.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you very much, Jen. I really appreciate you coming to speak with me today.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been great.
I know. We can just keep going. We can just keep playing. It's fine. Anthony's got nowhere to go, do you? Well, as usual, thank you so much for joining us today on Body in a City. As we said earlier, you can find Genevieve's information linked below. And as per usual, have a fantastic day and we will see you again soon. Bye.